Hello, and welcome to my Direwolf20 116 playthrough world. So, figured I'd do a tour of some of my favorite builds here. And the first one, and my current favorite, is a fully automated mechanical mixer from Create. Now, this is, I just think it's a wonderful looking mod. I've got a couple of other stations here. But this is automated. And I went a little bit, kind of did it in an unusual way. And I want to go over why. So the basic rules with this is as soon as it sees the ingredients for a recipe, this will start its mixing. When the recipe completes, it will output to a moving belt. And this is kind of annoying and kind of why I wanted to do the video, because in the new version of Create, this breaks. You'll be able to output the results of crafting to a non-moving belt, and this little output will stay. Currently, if you stop the belt, the output goes away, and this goes into basically fluid mode. It won't output any physical results because it doesn't have an output slot. So the physical recipes are andesite, and you can make this by hand. It's just slightly cheaper, and you know, I can't afford those iron nuggets. So there's brass. This is the only way you can make it, and brass requires it to be at least yellow. This also requires yellow, I believe, and this requires blue. And this is kind of like the end game item. And mostly it's used for decoration and a few tools. But the trick of it is, if you feed this with a belt and have your mechanical crafter feed into the belt so that you can see the items go in there and it looks kind of cool, if you request more than 16 of these, what's going to happen is it's going to fill it up with 16 andesite, and there will be no room for an iron nugget. So then this gets stuffed and there's no way around it. Now there's a real easy way to fix this. That is, in refined storage, you can set these to this kind of interlock mode, where it will only, if you request 50 of these, it will output one andesite, one iron nugget, and then it will wait for redstone signal to go high and then low. And on the lowering edge, it'll trigger another group. There's a much more complicated way to do this, and that's where the computer comes in. I kind of wanted to include computercraft, and I've never done it, and so I found a couple of ways to cram it in there, and it's a little bit interesting. So what this does is this transfers items from this chest to this depot, and this depot is watched by this arm, and the arm just mindlessly fills the bucket. But in this chest, this right here just emits a redstone signal when this is not empty. If we go into the code here, so this is what this little program does. It will search for one of these items, it will move one of these items, and then it will move the rest of the items in that group, in that state. So just a simple nested loop to handle this. And this way it's always, the materials are always interlaced, and there's realistically no way to overfill it. It's always going to find the next item, and this won't move no matter how many zinc nuggets or how many zinc ingots. If it's moved an iron nugget, it will never move anything else other than andesite, and the recipe can complete. And there's one little thing. I don't want this sitting there spinning the whole time, checking an empty inventory. So this is a blocking call. And this will, hopefully, I'm not exactly sure how it works, hopefully this will act as a, sort of system sleep And once it goes to this event, it's not going to be consuming any ticks until the redstone completes. So let's watch it do something. I love the way these little arms move. Now, in here we have a speed controller, and the nice thing about this is that this lets me adjust how fast the arms move. If you crank it up, and I don't think I have the spare torque. Yeah. If you crank it up, they'll go faster, and things will get crafted faster, but it looks a little silly. And 90% of this is how cool it looks. But this is actually an interesting... these speed controllers are wonderful. You can specify exactly how fast it's going, and this is kind of a compact way of doing it. If you drive this gear, then this output will be what is running at whatever this speed is. And it doesn't matter what the input speed is. This can change to anything. This will always be 38 RPM. If you drive this shaft, then this is what's going to be spinning at 38 RPM. So you can go both ways. It's always, essentially smart enough to understand the physics of which end has power and which end is consuming power. So that's the physical items. And incidentally, there's a stamper that was put in here. These recipes are relatively trivial. You put the ingot in here, it gets more flat. So those are the physical recipes. There are a couple other recipes. And those recipes that we're interested in are builder's tea and chocolate. And both of those require, let me see if so chocolate, to get this recipe, the chocolate requires sugar, cocoa beans, and milk, and you get the chocolate fluid out. The chocolate fluid then gets pressed into a yummy chocolate bar. And the other is builder's tea. This can only become a physical item by filling a glass bottle in a depot, or actually a belt would work here, with a spout. And this is a little bit more tricky because to get this, it's just water, milk, and any leaves, and just regular heated. But this fluid, which you can see right here, and if we go over here, you'll notice it's not in JEI anywhere. And you can't have a bucket of builder's tea. That gets a little bit tricky, and it's a little bit annoying because when you want to pull something out, there's no way you can make a filter that just filters for builder's tea. So the way I've handled this also is, this is my ender pouch. It's, it goes to the same as the input. If I want to, throw something away or put something in the AE system, I can just put it in here and it'll get sucked up into the refined storage system. But if I take out 8 bars, this will go ahead and fill it up with a few more. And the fluid interface, I like it so that this is sitting out here and it doesn't have many pipes going to it. But you need pipes to move fluids, and so that's over here. This is a phantom face, or entangled block. And what this is this is the same thing as that bucket, at least as far as pipes are concerned. If you try and read it with the refined storage system, you just get this physical block. It's not what it's looking at. But Create supplies this content observer, and this will see that bucket. So what this does is, if this sees either leaves or cocoa or sugar, any of the items that are going to be mixed with the liquid, it generates a redstone signal That redstone signal goes to this transmitter. That transmitter goes over to here. This is set up with that interlock that I talked about before. So when it puts the items in, it'll see the redstone signal go high. When the redstone signal goes high, it goes over to another remote sensor that's back there, and that turns off this clutch. So let's start with something simple. Right now I have 1 chocolate bar remaining, and let's say I want more. So if I pull out 8, it will fill up the ones that it can, and then it will start it just made chocolate. The chocolate gets transferred over to this and pressed. It's being transferred with the refined storage system, and the chocolate bars are being requested by this interface that has a crafting update. So every time it goes in here, it will make another chocolate bar, and this computer monitors this ender chest space and moves more chocolate bars into it. And so as it's moving chocolate bars in, you can see there's still none in the system, so it still makes it. The chocolate gets pulled out into this tank as a temporary tank. If you have in refined storage, even if you have an exporter for a fluid, then and somewhere else you have an importer, it has to go into a tank or some form of storage in the meantime, even if it's not there that long. But like I said, chocolate is easy because you can make a bucket of chocolate and you can just have a importer or exporter that it sends the fluid, just like any normal fluid. For builder's tea, for whatever reason, they decided to make it more difficult. And the only way that you can make builder's tea, or that you can filter on builder's tea, is to filter on everything that you're going to have that's not builder's tea. And so that's what this create smart pipe does. If you look in this filter, this will deny water, milk, the ingredients for both chocolate and tea, and it will also not pull out chocolate, and also just as kind of for completeness, it will not pull out lava. Technically, if I put cobblestone in that mixer, it would make lava. So if I do, that lava is just going to sit there. And that goes back to the filter. So let's make some tea. As you can see, we ran out of a buffer of tea. This is transmitting that signal. This is, you'll see this belt periodically stop, except I think it just already made it. And I was too slow. More tea, please. Okay. So as we go, it should pull out the tea any second, and then it fills up these items. This is just a integrated dynamics that constantly keeps it filled with bottles, and it uses the same interface to put it back into the system. So this spout fills it up. This pump will only pull out tea, and this interlock makes only tea items. Now there's one part that I haven't really discussed, and I think I'll make a different video for that, and that is how we keep this blaze burner running. And blaze burner's favorite fuel is Blitz cake. And over there I have a cake-powered cake factory, and we'll cover that in a minute. But anyway, that's how I set up my mechanical mixer. And like I said, this is a Direwolf20 world, so naturally each of these little alcoves are 9x9s. So Okay, that's the first video.